It's a must-win game for the Jaguars in Las Vegas. And I'm going to let you know why I think this is an identifying game this Sunday.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is, in fact, your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for giving us your first listen. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast that you can find wherever you get your podcast. Just make sure you tap into that location so you do not miss an episode. One like today, that is sponsored and brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Shout out to the everydayers that join us each and every day here. We appreciate you. And if you're new, we appreciate you as well. Also, slide on over to Amazon Music where you can check us out ad free. All right, let me give you a quick rundown of what we're going to do today as the Jaguars will probably leave tomorrow to head out west to Las Vegas. Remember, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, especially if it ain't no good. Hopefully, they won't have to do that. Their identity will be shown. Who they are, not who they want to be, will be on full display this Sunday. I'll tell you why I feel that way. Wild card race looks like the big story in the NFL this year. It's not necessarily those Goliath teams. We don't even know who they are. We think we do, but it's the wild card race with the Baltimore Ravens coming back and making some noise over the last couple of weeks. And now it's going to start getting crowded because there are some teams that are at the top. We'll talk about that. Must-win game in Vegas. That's where we're going to park it and begin this show here today. They got to beat them. They're 4-3. The Raiders are 2-5. The Raiders have struggled. Geno Smith has thrown interceptions all over the place. The Raiders have been banged up. The young players are not producing the way that they should. The offensive line in Vegas is not very good. They also don't do a real good job on defense. There's no reason the Jaguars shouldn't win this game. Both teams are coming off of a bye. So the Jags, even though they've played two tough games the last couple of outings against both the Seattle Seahawks and the Los Angeles Rams, who are pretty good football teams, there's a characteristic in both of those games that I think fans want to see go away. And what that is the slow, flat starts. That is bothersome because if it happens once, you go, okay. And most people blame the slow start against Seattle on the Monday night hangover because it was a short week. They had a big emotional Monday night win against Kansas City. And then most people say, well, it just came out flat. And I said, I'm not buying that because that is a trait and a characteristic you don't want to have. And that is after a big emotional game that you don't know how to act. You know, well, you got to act the same way, whether you're starving or whether you are full. You got a belly full of ribeye or whether you ain't ate in 2 weeks. You got to have the same character. Because if you don't, that's just a reflection of who you are. So while we cast a lot of things off as formulas, like that happens in the NFL, no, sometimes it just happens to a whole bunch of teams, and that's just who they are. It doesn't happen to the teams that you expect magic from, I don't believe. So passing things off like that. So then against Seattle, they start out flat. Then they go to London and they say, okay, we're going to regroup. And then they go over there and they come out flat. So now that it's happened twice in a row, what's the excuse now? What's the formula? So it can't happen the third time. And that's, you start to see things and you hope that they don't become patterns. And we don't dismiss things that when we see them, I don't at least dismiss things when I see it for the first time. I'm like, all right, I see you now. All right, what you going to do? You know, and then if you do it again, I'm like, hey, that looks kind of familiar now. This is who you are. So if it happens the third time, I'll be like, okay, that's who they are until that's who they're not. They can't come out flat, man. They just absolutely cannot do that because there are huge ramifications for this game. If you think And I don't know if y'all be following on social media, but I'll tell you what I got after the Seattle game. Even during the Kansas City game, I was getting stuff like same old Jags, same old Jags, same old Jags. Shout out to the dude hanging the TV up in my other room if y'all hear some noise. Same old Jags, same old Jags. No, it's not the same old Jags. It's a new Jaguar team, but the thing is this could just be a new team with the identity problem of an old team, and that happens around the league a lot. There are a lot of teams, man, that do the things that the Jaguars have done the last couple of weeks, the way that they've done them, and they're bad for a reason because that's just who they are. So let's just stop thinking that this is the way it is. This is what happens. Yeah, like it rains a lot in the spring, right? It doesn't have to be this way. Like the rain is that boy hanging at TV, ain't it? If you hear it, but the rain is something that does have to happen because of the weather. And hurricane season happens because of weather. Teams coming out playing flat, dude, that doesn't have to happen. That is something that they could absolutely control. So we're not going to subscribe to making excuses for them. But this is a big game. They got to win it. The Raiders are considered a bad team. They're one of the 5 worst teams in the league. Remember, the Jaguars were picking in the top 5 last year, and I said, okay, if you're picking in the top 5 this year, once you get the talent in the top 5 and then you make all of these changes, you can't continue to be. You have to separate yourself from those teams. The Patriots picked in front of the Jaguars. Well, technically, they had a draft pick in front of the Jaguars. They were 4. The Jaguars were 5th. The Patriots are now leading their division ahead of the Buffalo Bills. Now, I don't know they beat. I don't know they schedule, but all I'm telling you is, yeah, first year, second year quarterback, first year head coach, brand new offensive coordinator. Yeah, you see what they're doing? I know. Well, I think Josh McDaniels was probably there last year, but you get my point. My point is no excuses. We just cannot lose to another team that is considered one of now. The Raiders picked 6 last year, and they have a new coach and all of that stuff, and a new quarterback. They thought it was going to be different. Tom Brady, like I said, I said it yesterday, is sitting up there, and 1 minute he's in the press box, the next minute he has on a headset. That's all right. But the thing is you cannot lose. You cannot lose to the Raiders. You just can't. There's certain teams. You already lost to the Bengals without Joe Burrow, but we can at least point to a play where we says, nope, the game should have ended right then. But this one, I don't want to hear nothing about flat. I don't want to hear anything like that. The Jacksonville Jaguars are a better team than the Las Vegas Raiders, and they just need to go improve that, get back on that plane at 5-3, and come home. The reason why is because this wild card race is about to get done in the AFC. Baltimore has a lot to do with that, their resurgence. I'll tell you all about that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is brought to you and sponsored by Mazda. Mazda is moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward for me belongs to Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews had been on a milk carton all last year, this year, missing in action. All he had to do was get his quarterback back, and then he started throwing a couple of touchdowns, and I wish I had put him on my fantasy team, but I did not. Mark Andrews shows you that when you have a great player, things can really, really change. And when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning, and just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. And today's show is sponsored by our friends over at FanDuel. Look, man, I know the NFL season, we're in week 9 right now. Where did it go? Guess who just got started? That is the National Basketball Association. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game and you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, moving and grooving here on Locked On Jaguars, where it is your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen here as the Jaguars are headed out there. I wonder who's going to Vegas with the Jaguars. Their travel group, is this one of the Bowl City Brigade choices? I know the flagship radio station 1010, they going out to Circa. That's right, Circa Las Vegas. I like Circa. I like all of that outdoor swim and all of that stuff. I love that part. As a fact, I'll be in Vegas in February. I'm staying across the street from there, but I love going to Fremont Street and hanging with the locals. I learned a long time ago that when you go to Vegas, the people that hang out at the Strip, they're just tourists. Just like I used to stay on the Strip all the time. Now I stay in Old Vegas because my friends that live there say, only reason we come down here is because we don't come down to the Strip. That's just like me. People say, I know you go to the beach all the time. Man, I go to the beach about once every 3 years, and I live 10 miles from the beach here. Well, maybe 15 miles from the beach. Just don't do it, take it for granted a little bit. When I lived in Washington, you go there and see the White House and the monument? Nah, I probably ain't seen it in 5 years other than passing by it on the bridge. I don't hang down there like that. So that's what it is. When you go to Vegas, make sure you go to Old Vegas and have a good time. And mix in with the locals a little bit. Lots of good food. I hope the Jaguars can digest a victory because the wild card race is going to get out of hand here. I'm going to run through some of these teams. Right now, I've been telling y'all all week that the Jaguars would be eighth. That was before last night's game involving the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are back, by the way. Yeah. Ravens are pretty much back. They won 2 straight games. They're only a game behind the Eagles now. They're at 3-5. And see, this is why it's so important to win. All right, if you're the Jaguars. So if you look at this from a record standpoint right now, you don't want to get behind the 8 ball if you're Jacksonville. And 4-4 and 500, you say, man, they're right into the race. I'm not talking about being in the race, because Houston is at 3-4. So if Houston can win, now you're tied with Houston and you own the tiebreaker with Houston. But then the Colts play the Steelers. So if the Colts win, they're 8-1 and they're running away. They're 4 games ahead of you in the division, right? If the Steelers win and the Colts lose, the Colts will fall to 7-2. So if the Jaguars win, they'll go to 5-3, which puts them 2 games behind the Colts, and they have to play the Colts twice. The Jaguars lose, they're still 3 games behind, but now the Steelers are 5-3, which makes the wild card so important. Now let me show you something. Buffalo is behind New England. New England is 6-2, and Buffalo is 5-2. People will still say, well, Buffalo is going to eventually win the division. Yeah, but the problem is you still have the Patriots sitting there at 6-2, and the Patriots still got to play the Dolphins and the Jets again. So that's at least 8 wins for them. So all they got to do is get 2 more after that to end up at 10. But one of those teams is going to win it. One of them is probably going to make the wild card. If Pittsburgh wins the division, now you got Baltimore, who has to still play the Bengals and the Steelers twice, getting hot at the right time with their quarterback back, finding some defense last night against Miami. Then you look at your own division, you got to deal with Houston, who, if the Jaguars don't win, will be tied with them record-wise with another game between them. And then you look out west, and here comes your problem. Because I know y'all been doing the math, and you say, okay, you named about 5, maybe 6 playoff teams, Wig, maybe 6, right? Here's your problem. There's 7 playoff teams. Denver's at 6-2. The Chiefs might be the best team in the league right now at 5-3. And the Chargers are 5-3. The Jaguars play the Chargers. They play the Broncos. They already played the Chiefs. The problem is all 3 of those teams currently right now have a better record than Jacksonville. So you would at least think that there's 2 of them that's going to make it. This is why I said the Jaguars are sitting at 8th place for the playoffs, because that's the truth. If it stopped right now, Denver wins the division. The Chargers and the Chiefs are sitting there both at playoff teams, 5-3. The Colts, if they hold on, they win the division. And let's just say Baltimore catches Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh's struggling. Pittsburgh got to play the Colts. So they have a pretty tough game this week themselves. This is exactly why you don't want to be playing around with this stuff. You can't. You can't. I think the Bengals are done. They lost to the Jets. They got to be finished. Ain't no way you're gonna make the playoffs. You lose to the Jets. So now, what if in New England? Let's just say New England holds on to win the division. Buffalo's a wild card. Okay, that's two. Let's say the Bengals catch the Steelers. Your hope, if you're a Jaguar fan, is that the Steelers, not the Bengals, the Ravens catch the Steelers. Your hope, if you're a Jaguar fan, is that the Steelers just fall totally off the map. And I don't think that's going to happen because the part of the team that we actually thought was going to struggle is actually playing well, and that's Aaron Rodgers in the offense. And then you got the Colts, and then you got to hope you can hold off the Texans. And there's 2 or 3 teams that's going to make it, probably 3 teams in the West. This is rough, man. You either got to win the division or you're going to have to be one of those wild card teams. And in order to do that, you got to win games like the one on Sunday. It is a layup. You cannot play with your breakfast. You can't play with your food. You got to just get it out of the way, man. And you got to knock them off. At some point, a lot of the games the Jags have played this year, they were statistically dominant. And they won by 1 score. Some games the Jags played this year where it was no reason to think that they shouldn't be winning because they had 3 or 4 turnovers in one game, and then San Francisco has the ball threatening to go score a touchdown to win a game, and then they got another turnover. Can't do it. Can't come out flat. Can't come out slow. Trevor can't come out with the whole experience, trying to get things going, looking quirky, getting behind on the sticks. Team can't have penalties. Team can't line up. And as bad as the Raiders have been, I kind of feel like they're like 0-8 or 0-7, or I feel like they're 1-6. No, they at least won 2 games, so they beat somebody. And they can get, if you're the Jaguars, you can get got. This is what they have to watch and guard against. And the way to do that is to not go out and be scared. You have to be proactive, and you have to go out and get it and take it. That's the only way they're going to win this game this week. So they have to really, really tell you who they are and show you who they are and be the best version of themselves. It's the only way they're going to be able to be victorious this week. We will see if they can do it. I'll tell you all about what I mean when I say the Jaguars have to actually show who they really, really are, because who they are is going to show up now more so than any point during this season, especially early in the year. We didn't know because it was a brand new thing. Well, the brand new thing is now, we're 7 games into it. This will be game number 8, and then they're coming off of a bye. This will be the last time that they get a chance to say, okay, we figured it out. Let's go and play. I'll talk to you about all of that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Rougiette. Listen, man, let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve a thing. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired. It happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support. And that's where Rougiette comes in. Rougiette.com offers fast-acting doctor-prescribed treatments for ED, designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rougiette makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor, 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships directly and discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Visit rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL to get 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL. And don't forget to use your code LockedOnNFL so they know we sent you. Rougiette, stop making excuses and start making moves. Running it down here on Locked On Jaguars, where it is your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, here trying to pump and put out in the air some optimism that the Jacksonville Jaguars will win Sunday in Vegas. Like I said, I don't care if they win it, if they play ugly, as long as they win. If they play ugly, if some of the things that I said about them coming out and having slow starts happens and it rears its ugly head again, Doesn't matter to me as long as they win. But if they lose, then we'll go back and we'll look at it and we'll talk about it like we'll do this Sunday in a post-game show about the fact that I said, yeah, they did it again. So what you don't want to happen is to say, oops, they did it again. Shout out to Britney Spears. You don't want them to say that because then it becomes a pattern. And when it becomes a pattern, it becomes an identity. Then it's something that they have to shake and they can't shake because it's just it's emblematic of who they are as a team. And it's not just a symptom, it's an actual reality. You're trying to get a fungus off of your team and you realize the team is the fungus, right? So the thing is I want them to show us who they are. They ain't gonna get no more breaks until the offseason. They just had a bye week. No more breaks. This is the best chance that the bye week came at the right time. They're allowed to get some guys healthy who were banged up. They had some dudes that were ailing a little bit. Brian Thomas Jr., some offensive linemen. Even Travis Hunter now is on the injury report with a little bit of a knee issue that came after practice on Wednesday. So we hope he'll get out there and be at full strength. But this bye week actually came at an opportune time or an opportunistic time for them to get a little bit healthy and to do some things that will allow them to be back at full strength. Also, now they've had a very good look at what and who they are, the things that they need to clean up. They had a chance to do a lot of self-scouting and correct some things, identify what they do well, who they do and who does it well, and who they can do that well with. And now it's just like there's no more chances for them to do any reboots. And they're going to go from one game right into the next game until the end of the season. No more chances to reflect, no more chances to tweak, no more chances to change your identity. This game will tell you exactly who they have a chance to be. And what I mean is, if they play well, that by no means means that they're automatically going to play well each and every game for the rest of the year. But if they play poorly and lose, so they can play poorly and win and we'll take it. If they play poorly and lose, now all of those ramifications that we talked about earlier with the wild card kick in, all of those things happen. There's more pressure. And now you're coming off of a 2-week bye, losing to a bad team. And what happens? How can you then muster up the words, the emotions, whatever you need, one, without time, because you're going to have to flip it and come back and play another game in 6 days. Two, the other part of it is, well, what else can you say, man? You just came off of a bye. You got everybody relatively healthy. There are some things that if they continue to do them, you have to believe that they're going to have to eventually start changing the people that they're doing it with. And you can't do that until the end of the season. This game is going to either show the warts or show the resiliency to continue to improve and get better. At some point, you want to see things translate from practice, from the microphone, from the meeting rooms, from the social media posts. You want to see it come into fruition on the field. Now, the offense, which is the side of the ball that everyone was most concerned with in the offseason, especially when they used the offense needs. We need a play calling head coach, and we need an identity. And so many people were tired of Press and Doug and Phil Rauscher, and it was the part of the team that actually got the biggest facelift, right? And people wanted competency. At this point, the offense has been the worst part of the team. Even though they were running the ball really, really successfully, I'm talking about the flow of it, the connectivity of it. And not all game is just that sometimes it's from quarter to quarter, sometimes it's from drive to drive, sometimes it's kind of from game to game. But they haven't been as explosive on offense as we thought they would be. Not when they had Brian Thomas Jr., they drafted Travis Hunter and they signed De'Ami Brown and made an emphasis to, do the things they want to do in the run game. Travis Etienne has improved this year. The rookie running backs have given us the depth that they all wanted and the production. Parker Washington has had his opportunities. Trevor's been all right sometimes and not all right the other times. And to me, when you talk about the quarterback and you say that means he ain't all right. It's just If you say a quarterback is all right, that means it's probably not all right, unless everything else is going on around him. So the defense was playing well. They were turning everybody over. They were the reason the team was winning the games, and we were just sitting here waiting. Man, you just wait till that offense starts clicking. Well, it hasn't happened yet. This will be a good week for it to occur. This will be a good week for them to come out and jump on somebody 14-0. This will be a good week for complementary football to show itself back up the way it did in those first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. This will be a real good week for that to happen. Let's just hope it does. And if it happens, then we'll come back and we'll start re-examining it and start looking at it and say, okay, now we can really, really, really make a push towards this wild card thing. Because as I just painted the picture for you, you don't have a whole bunch of room to make a bunch of screw-ups. Good thing the Jaguars are in this position, though, because this time last year we were sitting there saying, oh, yeah, we're cooked. We were thinking about who they were going to draft. And y'all remember us doing the podcast at this time last year? We were talking about dudes like Travis Hunter. You remember when Coach Prime was on Nightcap with Shannon and Ocho, and he was like, well, who got the first pick? And they said Jacksonville. He goes, Travis, you remember that? That's the kind of stuff that we were looking at and talking about at this point last year. And now I'm sitting here talking about, look, they control their own destiny. They're in the catbird seat. All they got to do is just go out and take care of business, and they can be pushing for this division and a wild card. So those conversations that we're having now, yeah, we're better off than we were a year ago. It's not about that. It's about, are you where you're supposed to be right now? And I'm telling you, the Jaguars don't have to sit here and hope and pray. The fans do, but the players don't. They can go out and create it. Go out and create it. Show us who you are. We want to see it. Proof. That's right. Go out to Vegas and prove to us and prove to yourself that you are the team that we should be talking about to win a wild card or get a wild card or challenge for a division and maybe even a home playoff game. That's what we want to see. And we will let you know when that happens on Locked On NFL twice a day. Tyler Rowland and I, we break it down like you can't get it broke down, man. Twice a day on Locked On NFL. Wherever you get your podcast, please make sure you tap in. We will be here immediately after the game. This is a road game. I do not have to navigate my way through traffic and get home. I will already be in my house. And as soon as that game is over, about 15 minutes later, I will do the post-game show from the studio here on North Main Street. Y'all, I appreciate you guys tapping in with us. Go Jags. Travel safe to Vegas. If you guys are traveling, we don't take you for granted. 27 minutes, 45 seconds today. Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Jaguars.